got it out, though. Listen, I screamed at her. I'm not a screamer, you know. Listen, you're not letting me have any fun, and I'm sick of it. You're always pushing me around and telling me what to do. How come nobody ever gets to tell you what to do? Will you tell me that? You know what you said?
Annabelle, I said, when you're grown up, people don't tell you what to do. You have to tell yourself, which is sometimes more difficult.
Oh, yeah, I said in this real bitter tone. You know, that always blows her mind. Oh, yeah, you can tell yourself to watch TV all day or go to lunch with your friends, eat what you want for breakfast, or go to big parties or movies with Dad.
And do the laundry, I reminded her, and the shopping and the cooking. Make things nice for everybody. Honestly, Bill, that child has not got a clue about my life. Not a single clue.
Sounds like a picnic to me. I wish I could switch places with her for just one day.
All right, what's going on out there?
Something really freaky?
Wait a minute. That's not my voice. That's Mom's voice.
Hey, what's the matter with you?
Good grief, what am I doing here?
That's not my voice, that's Annabelle's voice.
Are you okay, Annabelle?
Annabelle?
You all right, Ellen?
Ellen?
Hello and welcome to Book versus Movie. This is a podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies, and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margo P. of coloniabook.com, and this is my good friend and co-host, Margo D. of Brooklyn Fit Chick.
Hi, everyone.
Happy holidays. It's December.
Yay!
You've been posting a lot of our past holiday episodes up and sharing them out and putting them on Patreon. And we have so many. We've been doing this podcast for going on 9 years now. So we have a lot. And
Yes.
That's why we decided to do Disney this December. We're doing Disney in December. We're very, very excited about our first Disney episode. But before we get to that, we decided to do a brand new episode every single week once the pandemic started. And it's not easy to come up with ideas. And we're still looking for Disney ideas for this month. So if you have suggestions for Disney movies or any other movies that you would like us to cover, as long as they've been adapted from a literary source that is easy to get, like we should be able to get it from the library and without spending a ton of money on Amazon or something. We'd like to not put billionaires into space with our podcast. And the movie has to be streaming on a major platform. Those are the rules. So if you have suggestions and you want to meet other listeners or interact with us, there's a few places where you can do that on the internet.
We have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like it, and all the episodes are posted there. We're more interactive in our private Facebook group, and in the Facebook group, we literally just talk about books and movies and ideas for the show, which is great. So just type in Book vs. Movie Podcast, ask to join. You can also find us on Twitter, as long as Twitter still exists, Book versus a Movie, spell that all out. And then also on Instagram, Book versus Movie, spelled it all out. Or you can just be old-timey about it and send us an email. Our email address is Book versus Movie Podcast, spelled it all out, at gmail.com. As Margo said, it needs to be something we can get our hands on. And also the movie needs to be something that's on a major streaming platform or YouTube. If we have to buy a DVD or something, it's just not going to work. Those are the parameters right there.
And if you really enjoyed the podcast and would like to help keep us in books and movies, you can support us on Patreon as well.
Yes, we've been doing the show for, as Margo said, for 9 years. We have a couple of hundred episodes on our Patreon wall, and we're always putting up new material. So as we put something new in the main feed, we put something up in the Patreon wall, on the Patreon wall, excuse me. So it's Patreon. We have a couple of very affordable options. We really appreciate all of you that help us to support the show. It really just keeps us in books and movies and paying for the hosting costs to keep this all together. So thank you so much.
And we'd just like to say that this episode is brought to you by Kensington's newest title, Colorado Country by Diana Palmer. I say title, but it's actually 2 novellas. Isn't that right?
Yes, so she's putting her books together. She's been a romance writer for many years. She's very, very popular. She's she's known as the queen of desperado quests for justice and true love. Sets a lot of her stories in Colorado. She really loves it there, and she calls that the Palmer Promise as hard to resist heroes and the innocent heroines. But they've got horses and sexy times, not horses with sexy times, by the way. I mean, just like there's romance. It's in the country. You understand what I'm trying to say there. So this is based on two stories, Christmas with My Cowboy and Mistletoe Cowboy. So Christmas Kisses with My Cowboy. This is all there are these two novellas put together. They're two different stories. And I've been following her on Goodreads. She has big fans. They're very excited to get these novellas put together, and they just make for great reading. And I'm sure she's somebody my mom would have loved to have read. I mean, I'm sure this was in her catalog. But yes, that's our newest. It's Colorado Country, Diana Palmer, and this is two books put together. It's with Kensington Press. You can also get them on Kindle and in audiobook form.
You can find Colorado Country by Diana Palmer wherever books are sold. Find out more at kensingtonbooks.com. Now, today's book and movie, this was a very popular book and movie when you and I were kids. Mm-hmm. And it's been updated. We were just saying before we got on the air, it's been updated a few times. Spoiler alert, I contend that the original is far and away the best version. But we're going to be talking about Freaky Friday. Our author is Mary Rogers, who lived to the age of 83. She also wrote the screenplay of the original version. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but really, really cool lady.
She's the daughter of composer Richard Rogers. I think we've heard of him in the past. She grew up in New York City. She went to Wellesley. She was a professional songwriter. She also wrote the musical Once Upon a Mattress, which was a really big hit in the late 50s, and there's been shows about it.
A revival.
Thank you. They do several revivals of it.
It was that was the show that launched Carol Burnett.
Oh, really?
To stardom. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. She also was a part of something called Free to Be You and Me, which was a Marlo Thomas production.
You remember that?
Oh, do I remember that? My mom played that for us all the time. It was a bunch of songs, and it was about little things like it's very 70s. It's like about fellowship and respecting people and gender roles.
Yeah, busting gender norms and kindness. It was our Baby Shark, but much more substantive.
Yes. Yeah. And there are songs like It's All Right to Cry by Rosie Greer. She wrote the song William Wants a Doll, which is what Alan Alda sang on there. So it's about a little boy that wanted a doll. And they said, well, that's just going to mean he's going to be a good parent someday. So that was one of her things. But she's written several things. She wrote that song for Free to Be You and Me, once again, which was a huge juggernaut in the 70s. But then that same year she wrote that, which is 1972, she wrote Freaky Friday. And she wrote other shows after that and other books and other screenplays, but this is kind of one of the things that she's most known for. And she did write the screenplay for the movie that came out in 1976. It was out in Christmas time 76, and it was in the theaters for one of those movies that was in the theaters forever. Like you could go multiple times to see this movie. I have the original TV ad I'll play when we're going between segments here, excuse me. But she was married twice. She had 6 kids. She lived to be 83, New York City person, really, really fascinating. And she is our author today, Mary Rogers.
I remember reading the original version of this book with the Edward Gorey illustrations.
Yes.
That is always... The one that you and I just read has a photograph. It must be from some more recent version or maybe the musical or something like that. But yeah, that's the one that I
was
too.
on the subway. I had a doctor's appointment. And I'm not normally in the city in the mornings anymore. I work from home. Big oversized sweater. It was a rainy, cold day. And I'm sitting there reading Freaky Friday. And people were just staring at me kind of what is this all about?
Okay, ma'am.
But it's a very quick read, very enjoyable read. It's pretty close to the movie, and it's about a mother and daughter, and they switch bodies. It's based on a modern.
Is it?
Vice versa.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It was based on an 1880s novel called Vice Versa, which is funny because there's this
That movie. Judge Reinhold.
Judge Reinhold and Kevin from
Wonder Years.
Thank you. Sorry. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. This is a mother and daughter. And so it's 13-year-old Annabelle and her mother, Ellen, and they switch bodies for the day. The thing is that in the book, it's mostly you're getting the daughter being her mother and that point of view.
Right. Yes. So there's a few things. So this is 1972, just to kind of put us in history. I just think this book is so cool, and I'm really surprised how well it holds up. But it's 1972, the late, end of the Vietnam era, women's liberation. Mm-hmm. Annabelle's like, she's pretty real actualized. She knows who she is. She has a strong sense of self, and her mom is a housewife, but there's no, unlike in later versions, there's no, like, Annabelle actually has quite a lot of respect for her mom and thinks her mom is beautiful and thinks her mom is smart, but they just clash about certain, kind of day-to-day sorts of things. In the book, Annabelle just wakes up and she's in her mom's body, and we don't know what happened or how that happened. She's like, okay, this is really weird. If I'm in this body, like, who's in my body? And this, like, she's Annabelle in her mom's body, and Annabelle walks in and she's like, that's me. Like, that's clearly. So if I seem to be in two bodies at the same time, she doesn't realize until very late in the book that it's her mom's spirit, if you will, who is doing a really good impression of Annabelle in Annabelle's body. So we're introduced to the parents. The dad is kind of like a typical sort of, a little hip. She loves her dad, but he's a business guy. That's what he does. And his wife is a housewife, and they have a housekeeper. I mean, they're fairly well-to-do. It's also established that they have a kind of a big house, and they're fairly well off.
Well, they live in New York City, so they're in an apartment. So you get the idea, like, her dad makes a decent living, because the whole thing about, there's this thing where she wants to go to camp. And her dad's
it's
like,
well, $900 in 1972. That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. And so he's like, well, I'd like to, if I'm going to spend $900 on a vacation, I'd like us for all to go together someplace, which is totally reasonable. I mean, but you said, like, Annabelle is 13. I mean, I guess all of her friends in New York go to camp over the summer, but they have, like, his mother or her mother lives in Larchmont, New York. So there's her dad's, he's like an advertising executive or something like that, right? It has to be. It's New York City. So it's like publishing or advertising. Or he's a lawyer. You don't really see anything from Annabelle's point of view in that. It's more about Annabelle seeing what her mother has to deal with every day. And so there's this very racist housekeeper that shows up and says terrible, racist things, and Annabelle fires her.
And also accuses housekeeper thinks she's talking to the mom, right? Mm-hmm. So the housekeeper also says that Annabelle has been sneaking alcohol when the housekeeper is the one who's been sneaking the alcohol. Like, she's accusing the kid. But she's also super, super racist. And Annabelle's like, you're out of here. Yeah. Bye. Bye, Felicia. Off she goes.
There's a few times where she says, we're very liberal here. We're people that identify as liberal. So she goes on these little sets of adventures, and then she has a brother called Ben, and Annabelle calls him Ape Face. And he's just this annoying little brother. And for her, he's annoying because, she's kind of a slob and he's super perfect. And even when he tries to make a mess, he can't really make a mess. The housekeeper covers for him, but also just like this is just not in his nature. But he's okay with Annabelle teasing him because he loves her so much that he even likes being called Ape Face. Like, it's just not even a problem for him. And then there's a boy named Boris who lives in the building, and Annabelle has a crush on, that's her crush. And he has, I haven't heard this in years, a problem with his adenoids. So he's...
Adenoids. Do you remember that? Like, is that even a thing anymore? Remember kids having them removed?
Oh, yeah.
When we were kids? They'd have them taken out. Is that still a thing? Forgive my ignorance. I don't, but I mean, I still have mine.
Yeah.
I also still have my tonsils, which was a thing that was still going on. But so he has adenoids. And so consequently, he always talks as though he has a cold.
And it messes up his words. So his name is Morris, but they think it's Boris or vice versa. It's just the way he speaks. Her husband's a very loving man, but he's kind of like a little clueless about like what Ellen does every day and what his daughter does every day. And at one point he tells her like, "Oh, I'm going to have some people over for dinner. Can you just whip something together?" When she has to do 10 other things.
I'm bringing my most important clients. You can whip. Yeah, she's got like a full day. She's got to take one kid to the orthodontist. She's got a meeting with the principal because Annabelle's not doing well in school. She's got shirts to iron. She's got, she's fired the housekeeper, so she's got to clean this house, do the school run, and she's already making dinner. She's already like planned dinner for the night. And here he's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's no trouble for you to whip up a gourmet meal for my two most important clients that I'll just bring tonight. Surprise!"
In like 3 hours or something. Yes. So she's like, "Oh my God!" So she has Boris help her. So he's going to babysit the son and then and cook up something
and cook because she can't cook,
right? And then she's going to go and get her braces taken out. She's getting her hair cut. She buys her a nice outfit. And then she comes home. It's sort of this like Annabelle is discovering like, oh my God, my mom just has so many responsibilities and she has to keep so many people happy. She talks to her mother every day. She has this racist housekeeper she has to deal with. She has all these appointments to keep together and keep the place clean and look beautiful for my husband and then have to entertain people. And she realizes her mother does an awful lot. She also realizes from her teachers with her mother meeting with the teachers, which is Annabelle meeting with her teacher, saying she has an IQ of 152 and she's underperforming. She's like, she could be doing so much better. And one of the teachers is almost crying because there's like, I just think she's so special and I want to reach her, but I don't know how. Annabelle realizing like, oh, I'm what is the word I'm thinking of? But I'm just not performing like I could be. I'm sort of, I'm skating by when I could be doing so much better and doing so much more. And she didn't realize how smart she was. She's like, I didn't know I had 152 IQ.
She felt also like the teachers were out to get her. Like she didn't realize that they were actually trying to help her. And so the book is mostly like her having her eyes open. We get a little bit of the mom realizing how hard it is to be a teenage young woman in the 70s, but it is mostly about Annabelle learning about like, because at the beginning she's like, oh, all my mom does is like, she could just sit on her butt and watch TV all day and eat candy. And, that sounds so terrible. But when she finally, it's starting to dawn on her, not just all the responsibilities that the mom has, but like all of the crap and expectations that are put on her just because she's a woman and a housewife, and the way that people kind of talk down to her when she knows that her mom's really smart and capable. The stuff that they like, their conflicts that they had were pretty mundane, but the understanding that they have. Oh, and she also gets like a nice deep understanding of her brother too. Like she realizes she's been mishandling that relationship as well. And she comes away with like a really deep respect family members and also for herself. Like she has a greater respect for herself at the end of it, which I think is a really cool message, and one that gets like totally thrown out the window in subsequent adaptations. But I love that, the mom is a housewife because that's what is expected of her. But Annabelle learns that although her mom's good at that, that's not necessarily what she wanted to do with her life. It's also, she really she doesn't look down on her mom being a housewife, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like the other versions do. Her mom is a housewife. It's kind of her only choice at the time that she got married. But Annabelle has a tremendous amount of respect for her and what her mom does for all of them every day. And I just thought it was great. I think it super holds up. The little racist moments were shocking to me. Like, whoa, we got there really fast.
Yeah.
Like, yikes. Okay. But you know what? That's what it was like in the 70s.
It's like that now. You could say that.
It's like that now.
That's why we get shocked when we see it on, on Twitter and stuff like that, like out of nowhere. Yeah, she had to deal with that. People dealt with that all the time, and you had to kind of navigate those conversations. In the end, I mean, it's kind of this convoluted reason that her mother basically manifested this body switch. It was her mother's whole thing, and she explains it. She wanted her daughter to learn about her, what her mother does every day, but also she learned what Annabelle's going through, like you just said. So they just had more respect for one another. It's not such a chaotic journey. And in the end, they kind of just go back to being who they were. and it's lovely. It's sweet. It's a very quick read. And I remember reading this when I was really young, but I haven't in a long time. And it just brought back a lot of memories. And it's really fun.
Yeah. And I really appreciated that it's such a timely story, that for coming out at a time in the United States anyway, finally in the 1970s, like it took so freaking long, but people are starting to really question gender roles and norms. We're still working on that, but this is just like the very beginning of that. And I think she does such a great exploration of that at a pace and level that is appropriate and accessible to a YA audience. And in that regard, I think it super holds up.
It does very well, and it's sold to Disney, so it's a Disney property. And Gary Nelson is the person that directs it, and Mary Rogers writes the screenplay. Let's take a quick break. I'll play this little ad from 1977 for the movie, and then we'll get into the 1976 film of Freaky Friday.
What happens when daughter and mother become each other?
I wish I could switch places with her.
Barbara Harris is a teenage mother, and Jodie Foster is a middle-aged daughter. John Astin is a confused male chauvinist.
You never called me Daddy before.
No.
It's Freaky Friday, a real comedy switch from Walt Disney Productions, rated G.
This movie had a little tiny budget. I'm sure because people are like, oh, it's just about a mother and a daughter. Who cares? Like, it's not a Herbie movie. It's not Kurt Russell and something, you know what I mean? So they're like, we'll see what happens. Not understanding, like, there's just tons of teenage girls who read this book, or young girls who read this book and would have loved to have seen it. Or I just saw all the Disney movies when I was a kid in the 70s. But
you just did. They were on TV. They were in the movie theaters. They were arguably as ubiquitous then as they are now. I mean, I don't even know how many times I saw this movie. I saw it at birthday parties, on television. I know I saw it on the big screen at some point. Yeah, many, many times.
Drive-ins. It's just one of those easy movies to watch. And they used to just always, Disney before it kind of expanded and had Buena Vista and all these other things like it, because I looked at their entire list. I was like, oh, wow, like there's some R-rated movies in the Disney canon. But back then, Disney was G. I mean, it was like a hard G too. It was like very innocent. So we have Jodie Foster as Annabelle. Jodie Foster, by the way, this is the same year that she's in Taxi Driver, which is
that nuts?
Insane.
I know. It's jaw dropping. I know the same thing. My mouth just fell open when I realized that. Like, whoa, she's brilliant. Yeah, clearly, just wow.
She's somebody that was just gifted. I mean, she started acting like she was 4 or 5. Her mother got her into the business with her siblings, and she went to Yale, right? She went to Yale, just had this very long and interesting career, but she went from Taxi Driver, which is playing a child sex worker, to playing this character. So they moved the action to California. So it's just this like basic suburban kind of house. Barbara Harris is her mother, who's so funny in this movie.
She's so good in this. It's such a great performance. It's so buyable. They're so good. These two ladies are so talented that you so buy. I completely buy that it's the one's personality in the other's body. The other versions do not do this to any degree of success as this version. Barbara Harris is really acting like Jodie Foster, and Jodie Foster is really acting like Barbara Harris. And I am here for it. Barbara Harris, I always think of, she's so pretty, number one. Number
Beautiful.
two.
Like a
apart
doll.
from this movie, remember her in Peggy Sue Got Married?
Yes, Peggy.
I love her.
Do you know what a penis is? Stay away from that.
Stay away from that.
It's my favorite line from that movie.
I love her in that.
She's a beautiful, I should say, like a doll. She's so beautiful. Housewife. And then they have this kid is Sparky. What's his last name? Sparky Marcus plays the brother. This kid was in everything.
So good. He was in commercials. That child was everywhere. Yeah.
So funny. So good. And John Astin, I love me some John Astin. I always have time.
I adore that man. He's another one that I think is just underrated.
Yeah.
And he always delivers. He always has an unexpected take on things. And he's so good in this. He's so like, he loves his family.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other thing, like this is Mary Rogers all over the place, but although he's very inconsiderate of his wife, and we'll get to that.
Yes.
Nevertheless, he really respects his daughter and his wife. He doesn't like when his daughter, he's like very oblivious. He's got this big presentation coming up that he's like everything. He's blinded to everything. But when his daughter shows up at his office and is like, "Hey Dad, I need some cash to go like get this and that." And he's like, he stops everything to spend those couple of minutes with her, to talk to her, which I thought was really cool. But he's so awesome at that like absent-minded professor kind of energy. He's just so fun.
But never mean. Like
never, ever. Yeah.
Never. And he
just inconsiderate.
Yeah.
Just oblivious.
Clueless. Like, but you know, Sorrel Book is in this movie. Charlene Tilton, little baby Charlene Tilton, and her gorgeous hair. But so Jodie Foster is this tomboy, and her mother is this glamour puss, and they're just so perfect for that together. Jodie Foster goes to school and she's like having like at a diner with her friends. And then this is like, it's very 70s, like they switch the bodies.
All right, what's going on out there?
Something really freaky. Wait a minute. That's not my voice. That's Mom's voice.
Hey, what's the matter with you?
Good grief, what am I doing here?
That's not my voice, that's Annabelle's voice.
Are you okay, Annabelle?
Annabelle?
You all right, Ellen?
It's very low tech effects.
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, it works.
But it works. I mean, when Barbara Harris.
Better than the other versions.
Oh, we'll talk about them. When Barbara Harris is like, kind of like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And then Jodie Foster immediately turns to her friends like, may I trouble you for a nickel, dear, or a dime, dear? And they're two different ways of looking at it. So Jodie Foster becomes, and I think Jodie Foster was super smart. And probably this is kind of a lot of who she was, like very verbal, intelligent, had some poise about her. And then Barbara Harris is playing her mother. And my favorite thing, I mean, you know, the washing machine that explodes, we've seen that a million times. I mean, that's just kind of this trope, like, oh, you only use a little bit of soap. Oh, oops. My favorite thing is when she goes to play baseball with her son and she's really like playing it. And I think Barbara Harris is so funny in that, and like it must have been like a dream part for her.
It's a ton of physical comedy that she in particular, both of them are, they're both super, super physical roles. But Barbara's role in particular, I mean, the stuff they have her do, sliding into home plate, hang gliding, water skiing, all the when she's like dancing when the housekeeper shows up and she's like dancing to rock and roll with a little transistor radio. Lots and lots of physical comedy from Barbara Harris, and she is just delivering and delivering and delivering through the whole movie.
The way you do comedy is you play it like a drama. You play it like it's real, like it's really happening, and that's what she's doing. And so while she's like trying to figure out home, and then the kid who plays Boris is really hilarious. That's Mark McClure. I think he was in the Michael J. Fox time travel movie, Back to the Future. He was the brother in the Back to the Future movie. He's also in another Freaky Friday, but we'll talk about that. But he's perfect as like that 70s kid with the big hair, following her around with the nose drops.
He's great.
He really
is
is
so great. He's really good.
And so he doesn't realize like Barbara Harris is like has a crush on him because she's Annabelle. So she wears a black slinky dress and she can't walk in the shoes. It's all so silly, but it's so funny. And Sparky is a really great little actor. And when he's talking about how much he loves his sister and he doesn't mind being called Abe Fay, you really believe it.
You totally buy it.
He totally, yeah.
He's super good.
He's so good. And then Jodie Foster is so funny so she's very confident as a teenager, and then to play like somebody who's a total jock, and then to be like totally terrible at field hockey. I mean, she has some really hilarious moments like doing that. In this version, so the dad has the same thing happen where he needs her, but the stakes are much higher. So
yeah, because it's a movie,
right?
And I really applaud, because Mary Rogers is very smart, and she knows how to adapt, how to stretch and shrink a story for the format that we're dealing with here. So we have that moment of the two women wishing to be each other, and the whoa, like you're talking about. That's not in the book at all, but it's for the movie. It's fun to like see that happen. And then to have Annabelle, be all these like visual, there's all these visual gags that are not in the book at all. Like you talked about the softball thing and the water skiing, like none of that is in the field hockey even I don't think is in the book. It might be, but so she knows that like all of these are going to be hilarious. The police chase, all of that is going to be so funny on film. And she just kind of cranks it up as far as it could possibly go to it's almost preposterous, just under enough that you just are. You're in, you're there, you're with them, you're willing to believe like, sure, okay, body switching. Got it.
So the dad is part of this amusement park kind of thing, and they're gonna they're weird.
It's unclear. They're not. They live in. Yeah, the locations are all Los Angeles and Burbank. Like that car chase is through old Burbank. That water ski, all of that's in San Diego. It's like 5 minutes from me. They live in a fictional place called Bay City. He works for a real estate developer, I think, and they're going to build a big like a resort. For those of you who are familiar with San Diego, it's the Mission Bay area of San Diego where all the resorts are, as part of the like groundbreaking of this project, this very large resort project. John Astin, the dad, has planned this like spectacular kickoff event with his daughter, where he's volunteered his daughter to do a water skiing show and demonstration, and then also totally at the last minute volunteered his wife to do all of the catering.
And it's a couple of dozen people that they have to do that for. So Barbara Harris is like yelling at him, like, are you kidding me? You're throwing this at me at the last minute. So then she decides to bake a turkey, and we'll just turn the oven up really high. And in the meantime, she has to go to her daughter's meeting with her, and that's straight from the book. Barbara Harris, once again, so funny, sitting cross-legged in the chair.
She's sitting cross-legged in the principal's office for the meeting. The principal is Boss Hogg from Dukes of Hazzard.
Yes. Who's always really good too.
He's super good. He's a really good character actor, and he's great in this. Like, it's a totally different kind of character from Boss Hogg. He's a principal. He's authoritative, but he also like super cares about Annabelle, and he's kind of concerned, like, maybe the problem with Annabelle is that her mom is out to lunch, because look at this lady.
Oh, she's very spacey when she shows up, and she's, maybe Annabelle's just a flaky chick. Why do you all worry about that? And then she's like, I'll talk about it with my husband. Oh, do we have issues here? Very 70s too. Like, people will just ask you stuff like that. No boundaries or anything. But she gets out of that, and that's when Jodie Foster realizes, like, as Annabelle realizes, oh, I'm really smart. I could probably work harder at school and do better.
I could do a little better.
I could do better. Yeah. So then I'm underachieving. So then they go to this event where it's the water skiing. And of course, Annabelle's a top water skier. She's not just a water skier. She's like on top of the pyramid when they're going down with that. And I love it when they're driving through old Burbank and they have the guy running with the bass instrument, a tall bass. And then there's another guy on crutches who then just runs with the cast on his foot. I mean,
it's so awesome.
Hey, what are you doing? No!
Hey, where'd everybody go? Coming through.
No, right.
No, the other way.
No.
kitchen
It's such
sink.
a great scene.
I love it.
When the police car splits in two.
Oh my God, I love that. And it's this like disco music in the back. It's so funny. And it just really pays off. So then
But again, and it's all visual gags.
Yes.
This is like, none of this is in the book, but it's just visual gag after visual gag. And it's so funny. And it's just building and building and building in its incredulity. It's just, but it's so fun. Like when the police car splits, it is so hilarious.
I love it. And then
I love it.
And then so that as soon as they make the switch back, Jodie Foster's driving, which she doesn't know how to drive. So that's why they're gets insane. And then Barbara Harris in her black dress and her pumps and everything is flying in this hang glider. Now it's clearly not her. It's clearly also, that's another thing I love, is all stunt doubles, and it's love it.
Yeah. Like there's a scene where Barbara Harris, who's supposed to be Jodie Foster on the inside, right? She jumps onto a skateboard and she like does this skateboard. I'm pretty sure that's a dude in a dress.
It's a dude in the dress that's
Right?
also doing the hang gliding too. That is, I looked at that. I was like, that can't possibly. I could be wrong. It could be just a very lanky, tall woman, but
Yes, apologies, ma'am, if it's a stunt.
I'm sorry. But it's very, very funny. I mean, they crash, and then in the end, you know, they crash into the moat thing, and then it sinks into the water. And being a Disney movie, everybody just goes, ha, 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 isn't this hilarious? We're just in our suits and clothes and in the water. You know?
Oh, your family's a bunch of comedians, Bill.
We got to
What a
give you
bunch
the
of cut-ups.
project. Yes. So they get the project, and they wind up appreciating each other. Her mother gave her a haircut, got her braces off, and so Annabelle is you know. And at the very, very end, it's Sparky and John Astin kind of having this conflict, and then they're like, "Oh boy, it's going to happen all over again." Because I want to be like you. No, I want to be like you. And then boom, and then that's the end of the movie, and it's very, very satisfying, and it's really fun. It's got a great message to it.
It does.
If you want to know about 1976 fashion, like, this is the movie.
Everything, the sets, the locations are so awesome. The cast is brilliant. And then the script is super good. The script is very, very good and really moves along at a nice pace. Like, we get the housekeeper is not as blatantly racist as she is in the book, because Mary Rogers understands, like, that's a little too far for a kid's Disney movie.
Yeah.
Like, we can't, but she, you know, again, we get it. We get it with her. She's a problem and she needs to go. And yeah, I'm just really impressed with how well it holds up. And just like in the book, what I really like, and this is, you know, the kind of the kernel of the story, is they already respect each other when they switch. They just sort of have a deeper understanding and a deeper compassion for each other at the end. But they don't hate each other, you know, at the beginning. They just have these dumb little, like, she wants me to cut my hair and clean my room. And, you know, I'm tired of her being on my back all the time. And that's why it's mostly from Annabelle's point of view, I think. But Annabelle, she says right in the beginning when she's introducing every member of the family, like, she says basically that she has a respect for her mom, and that she thinks her mom is beautiful and smart and everything like that. And, but she doesn't really understand, is the thing. She doesn't really understand everything that her mom is doing for her on a daily basis. And that's part of the reason why she decides to buckle down in school, is she realized, like, her mom is like racing all over town trying to get stuff done. She doesn't need to be going to the principal's office because I'm too lazy to, like, fill out this form properly. So I really like that. And I like that that's in the book and in the movie. It's so good. It so holds up. It's really good. Really a really good film. Good job, Disney.
Good job, Disney. So if you go to
time.
Disney Plus, right. So if you go to Disney Plus, you can find this version. We'll click quickly about, there is a 1995 version. It's on YouTube. It's Shelley Long, and it's Gabby Hoffman.
It's Shelley Long, Gabby Hoffman, Sandra Bernhardt's in it. Drew Carey is in it.
Jackie.
Taylor Negron, who I think is always really got it's got a good cast, but it's a terrible script.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's very, they just like, okay, it's 20 years later, 1995. Let's just make it all grunge. And then they really overdo it with what they're doing with Annabelle.
Yeah.
And then Shelley Long, and I was saying this to somebody the other day, like, I think Shelley Long is completely underrated. I think she's a very funny
agreed.
Physical actress.
Yeah.
She
Agreed.
does uptight and kind of confused better than anybody, and she does that really well. But it's not good, and I think there's a reason why. And it's a Disney production because Disney owns it. But
It's poorly written and poorly directed, and it's not. It's great. Again, great cast. Everybody that's in it is a good. So but it's just bad.
Yeah,
it's so bad. Yeah.
So we're gonna go to our 2003
Speaking
version.
of bad.
So let's take another quick break. We'll play the trailer for this movie, and then we'll just go quickly into Freaky Friday 2003.
I have had it. Hurry up! What? I'm ready.
For the Coleman family,
Bye, honey. Make good choices.
Mondays are manic.
I can't believe it. It's Jake. He's not looking. He's totally looking.
Wednesdays are wild. And for Anna and Tess, there's never enough time to really understand each other.
What? Time's up. It's after 6. You're ruining my life.
But on Friday,
You think my life is perfect? You couldn't last one day in my high school. Cookie.
that's all about to change. Because things are going to get a little freaky.
Why am I in Anna's room? This isn't mine. Those aren't mine. That's definitely not mine. So, you're in my body and I'm in your body.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Oh, I'm like the Crypt Keeper!
Honey.
Could you, chill for a sec? I want my body back!
My wedding's tomorrow.
I can't marry Ryan! Ew! Platinum Cup.
Don't even think about it.
Jamie Lee Curtis,
This song is killing me.
Lindsay Lohan,
Great bike. What? Not like I've ever been on it. I'm not allowed.
Walt Disney Pictures presents a movie about what it takes
I can't do this. What do you mean?
to make someone else's dream
Do something!
come true.
When what you see is what you lack.
Then selfless love will change your back. Why don't we
Yes, a jolt. Okay, that was stupid.
Freaky Friday.
Where's Harry's school?
Well, you can walk from here.
It's 20 blocks.
Run fast.
You sent me a video, a
Uh-huh.
YouTube clip of someone dissecting this movie before I rewatched it.
There is some very good analysis on this film on YouTube, but let me just say, I found several. That was my favorite one, but yeah.
We'll post in the Facebook
I
group.
really appreciate young people of today taking a critical eye to this movie. It makes me very hopeful for our future.
We have to say this is a movie that's going to be 20 years old next year. So it's a whole other time. I have my Lindsay Lohan story I've told before where I got to meet Lindsay Lohan. I'll post that in the Facebook group. But I met her when she was younger, when she did the other movie, The Parent Trap. But this is one of her big teen, like she's not a little girl anymore, not yet a woman, all that stuff. And she's beautiful and she looks great. And Jamie Lee Curtis is always welcome for me. I think she's always funny.
Love her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is in this movie. Harold Gould is in this movie. Chad Michael Murray is cute. Mark Harmon is great.
Yep.
I have no problem with the cast. I do have a problem with the movie in that one of the reasons they take Rosalind Chow, who's a fantastic actress.
Who, how many people? Tell me you don't have any Asians in your production company without telling me you don't have any Asians in your production company. How many people approved this? I want to know.
For you, Mrs. Coleman. You look hot. Two for lunch?
No, Pepe. We'd like to speak to you about something that we think happened to us at your restaurant.
Yeah, something that sucks.
Let me handle this.
Okay.
When we woke up this morning, we weren't ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, Mama! Hey, you come back here.
Hello.
Did you give them the fortune cookie?
昨天你听他们那吵嘴啊？我听他说是帮他们的忙的嘛。
帮忙啊！你知道我已经告诉你不要闲管闲事啊。
What did you say?
Oh, she's crazy.
好像狐狸一样啊！有一天他们会谢谢我的。
不可能！你知道这个人明天也要结婚了哈？你知道啊？
怎么什么事儿都没人告诉我呀？啊
Well,
she don't know what you're talking about. No idea. Okay, let's have lunch. Okay, let's eat.
I think you know exactly what we're talking about.
Let's hit her.
Okay. I cannot fix it. Only you can fix it. When the fortune come true, then you go back. Not before.
What fortune?
From the fortune cookie. You find the answer in each other. When the fortune come true, then you go back. Okay, no big deal.
You mean we're like stuck in this suck fest?
You're not going to do anything?
How about 10% off catering?
No, Pepe, I already told you we have a caterer.
Actually, Mom, there's something I forgot to tell you.
Okay, good idea. How about I do?
The whole thing is that the family is at a Chinese restaurant. And absolutely, I mean, I live in New York and I have a lot of Asian friends. I'm sure there are people who talk with a big accent, but it's so over the top how they're presenting Asian people.
There's literally a gong in the soundtrack when they show up. Gong, people.
Right. And the mother, Rosalind Child, Pei, and then Pei's mother, or Pei, her mother is an old Chinese lady, and she hears the mother and daughter arguing, and she's like, ooh, I'm going to give them a fortune cookie. And that's going to put a spell on them to get them to switch bodies. Now, look, you're asking people to switch bodies. It's going to be weird no matter what. I get that.
Why? No good reason. There's no good reason. What? Who said haunted fortune cookie? And then who was like, yes, haunted fortune cookie.
And like I said,
at least like in the Shelley Long one, it was like an amulet. It was like something like a piece of jewelry that I forget. It was dumb too.
Yeah.
But okay. Must we? You have Rosalind and you make her do this like, I don't even know. I wasn't even going to attempt to do it because it would be racist even for me to, as a demonstration of it. It's that bad. Well, it's so terrible.
It's sort of like a Dragon Lady meets Calgon commercial meets.
It's totally and it's not even like the Calgon commercial. It's anyway.
Yeah, that's a whole
not Calgon. Not Calgon. No, Calgon was the Calgon Take Me Away with the Bath. It was what was the ancient Chinese secret? It was a laundry thing.
It was a laundry thing. Anyway, but at least she was smart.
Because this was like, she's angling to get okay, we have to do the premise.
Yeah,
this is my problem with both of the later adaptations. This is what makes me so furious about it because the book and the first movie are a very thoughtful exploration of 20 and I would say even 21st century expectations, gender roles and norms, and the cost of them. In the subsequent adaptations, there's a decision, I think, just because it's later, that the moms have to be career women. Okay. But also, they're terrible at their careers.
Right.
So they're career women, but they're super bad at their careers because, women... Why are you, trying to be a career woman when you're a mom? You're supposed to be a mom. That's your first and foremost responsibility. Why are you throwing all this energy into this career when you're supposed to be having an understanding relationship with your daughter? So they are these quote unquote successful women, but they're really failures in their personal lives and especially in their relationships with their daughters because they're career women. And that just like makes me so so angry because and the daughters don't have any respect for the moms in both the versions. They really don't like each other. And the moms don't have any respect for the daughters.
No respect. Taking the
so
door
what are you
off?
building on?
Like, what is that?
For what?
For what? For nothing.
For what did she do? I'm not sure what she did.
Yeah, Lindsay
I don't
Lohan
understand.
is the teenager. And it's like they gave her the grunge thing, but now it's like 10 years too late for grunge. So it's
a little late. It's a little stale.
It's a little,
but okay.
All right, I'll take that. But then she goes to school. She's constantly getting detentions for stupid stuff. I mean, what kind of school is this? You have to wear a sign that says detention?
I went to Catholic school and it wasn't that draconian. So weird.
I know I went to a very big school. Like it was like 5,000 students and it was like, yeah, we have a detention hall, but it wasn't like that. I mean, it was, so it doesn't know what high schools are. It doesn't really, it's really sort of just, and then Chad Michael Murray, who's very cute and is great as like the love interest because he works really hard. He has an after school job and stuff, but her mom immediately does like, oh, you can't date him and you can't do this. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is really playing the harpy and she's a psychologist and she's written a therapist and she's written a book.
And she's terrible at it.
She's really bad. She tells her just to ask people how you're doing.
Dangerously bad.
I think a Scientologist wrote this.
Yeah. No kidding.
Really? It's
like that bad.
Yeah.
And making fun of people and their mental health issues.
Yeah.
We're doing that.
Yeah. So Lindsay Lohan, so the mother is getting married to Mark Harmon. So her husband died 3 years previously. And so that part of why Lindsay,
we don't know how.
I think he took off. I'm like, I think he took off. But anyway, he's gone. And so it's the son, and the son's really weird in this movie. You don't get any kind of sibling love there. They figure out what's going on, that they're being switched. And then and Lindsay Lohan as the mother is such a harpy, like going into the Chinese restaurant and screaming at them to, change this. And then, of course, like, oh, we'll do your catering for 10% off. Oh, okay. And that just solves everything. Then there's another thing that really bothered me. I mean, one that she had, I like Willie Garson. That was his name. He passed away recently. He's the patient. Willie Garson plays the patient that goes every
from
day.
Sex and the City. Yeah.
And he goes every day for years, and she's like charging him how much money.
And we're making fun of him.
And
so again, the thing again, like one of the really awesome things about the book and the original movie is that for both the mom and the daughter, what they're living for each other is a typical day. It is a normal, mundane day in the other person's life. So it's not somebody's birthday even. It's just a regular day that, they're dealing. Each of them gets a glimpse of what their normal everyday life. In this version of the movie in particular, of the book in particular, it's like heightened. I don't know why. She's a therapist who has a book that's come out that she's promoting. She's going on television, and she's also getting married to Mark Harmon in like 48 hours. I don't understand the mother-daughter conflict at all. There's this scene in the beginning where Annabell, she's called Anna or something. She's called something else, right?
Tess, sorry, it's Tess and Anna. Tess and Anna.
Anna. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Anna is in a grunge band because,
I do like that.
It's cute. She has a band. That's a healthy, she's not like in a biker gang. She's in a healthy, activity.
She's
very good for her,
yeah.
For her education development. She's talented. And obviously, they're practicing there in the house, and the mom like pulls the plug on their practice. Why would you do that?
Just to do it. I mean, it's 6 p.m. You got to stop now.
Arbitrarily.
Yeah.
What?
So yeah, she doesn't understand why her having an audition in LA for Kiss FM would be a big thing. Of course it is.
She's not supportive at all.
No, and then
what the?
Okay, this got to me, and I don't know if it got to you, but in the original story, Annabelle is kind of says, "I'm worried about my figure," but my mom says that's silly. Don't worry about that. Blah blah blah.
Yes.
In this movie, so Jamie Lee Curtis as the teenager is driving the car and she's eating French fries and she gives her daughter a French fry and her daughter starts freaking out. Why are you eating a French fry? If you eat one, it'll go right to your thighs. And then she starts eating the French fry. Oh, I can do it because I'm in this body. And it's like women don't have it. And I haven't had a French fry in 8 years.
Like, what?
My hair, it's gone. And what is this? What have you done to my ear?
Mom, it's an earring.
Take it out. Take it out right now.
No, it looks cool.
Oh, don't start with me. And those clothes are going back first thing tomorrow.
Why? Everyone likes them. You look great.
I look like Stevie Nicks.
Who's he?
And what are you doing with this?
I'm eating.
You cannot eat fast food.
Why not?
Because it will go down your throat and drop instantly to my thighs.
Oh, come on.
Watch the road. Oh, this food may make you blow up like a balloon, but it will do nothing whatsoever to me.
Oh, Mom.
Oh, God, this is good.
Mom, that's not fair.
My first French fry in 8 years. I can hear the Hallelujah chorus.
Is that why you're so crazy ripping off doors and pulling plugs?
I think that's why she's so grouchy. She's like really hungry and needs to eat more French fries. I mean, seriously, it's like,
this
what's
is
the
again
message
like,
here?
tell me you didn't have any women making decisions on this movie without telling me you didn't have any women making decisions on this movie. Yeah, look, like for instance, I played piano. I had piano lessons like all through school, all through high school. Not one time. And my piano was in the middle of the house, right? I can't think of one single time where any single member of my family was like, can you stop practicing piano now? It's 6:00. That never happened.
So they're in a band and they're in the garage or the basement. I think it's the garage.
And they're good.
And it's all decked out. Like they've been doing this for a few years.
They
have
amps. They're yeah.
It's not just a hobby. Like they're really like good. And like you said, it's good for development for your brain. I mean, they've shown like music lessons helps with your understanding of math. This is really important. And then so the mother is having her wedding, and then so they have the rehearsal dinner, and that's when they're gonna come back together, and Jamie Lee Curtis is basically saying, tell Mark Harmon I'll marry him soon, but not now, because it's going to upset you too much. And then that's when Lindsay Lohan or Jamie Lee Curtis as Lindsay is giving a speech basically saying like, I really love him. We're a new thing now. We're a whole family. And it's like, she got that in 6 hours she went from?
A day. Let's say 8. Let's be generous and say it was 8 hours. Yeah. And
it's a sweet speech, but
I know, but what's my message here?
Right.
What's my takeaway? It's not about these two women developing empathy and compassion based on an already existing mutual respect. The mom being like, oh, I shouldn't be so focused on my career because I'm getting married.
And also the book that I wrote is not true. Like my message in my book is terrible. My daughter gave a better message than me on the TV segment that they just did. I never feel like Mark Harmon also doesn't really get enough to do here.
No, he has very little to do.
It was going to be Annette Bening and Tom Selleck. And then Annette Bening dropped out for whatever reason. So Jamie Lee Curtis was like a last
She must have read the script.
I'm going to say, yeah. They make these, the casual racism is bad enough, and the body shaming and the
and in the original, in the book, when the casual racism exhibits itself, the main characters go, hey, we're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
Stop it. They don't just let it just like slide by or act like it's a normal thing. When Lindsay Lohan, like they're trying to figure out what happened, and Lindsay Lohan, who's supposed to be the mom at this point, she says like, oh, it must have been some Chinese voodoo thing.
Oh my God.
That's the explanation. First of all, it just
and grabbing her own butt. Oh, that's not mine. I know it's like,
it's so terrible. It's so terrible. But Was Mary Rogers no longer with us at this point?
Mary Rogers died. No, she died in 2014. But that's like, but she was like in her 70s. I mean, I'm sure they didn't even ask her. I'm sure
they didn't. And it's like the opposite message of her work. It's so terrible. Like from the casual racism on down. The mom is terrible. She is a terrible person. And she grows a little, I guess, but not enough. Not nearly enough.
I'll say I liked the scene when they did the concert. And so the mom is actually playing guitar, and then Lindsay Lohan. Cute. That was very cute. And that was a moment that they really kind of like, oh, you're good. Like, you should be doing this. This is one of your passions. And I understand how difficult it is and how much you're putting yourself out. That was sweet. I could have used more than that in this movie.
The
more
whole
of the
thing
deep
is
stuff.
Supposed to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's so bad. It is such a it's bad, and the message is horrible. It's just, and then you have like Dina Lohan at the end
looking into the camera. Bless her heart. Yeah.
It's not good. And the Shelley Long one is also not good.
And there's a musical. I'm sorry, I real quick. There's a musical. I got 20 minutes in and I had to stop. I mean, and it's fine, but there's just so many just fine musicals out there based on properties we've already known. It just didn't grab me.
But the original book and the original movie have such an enduring, and it really is about a relationship between these two women, and as women, and getting a deep understanding of each other. They hug, and they just really, at the end, they hug each other, and each one tells the other one that they love them, and you really buy it because you have seen each of these women have the realization, like, wow, I didn't realize how hard that was for her. Wow, it's really kind of amazing that she could do that, and wow, she really does this every day. I didn't have any idea. She must really care about us. Each of them are having that realization, and you don't get any of that in any of the other, it's very insulting to women. I find the two other versions extremely insulting to women of all ages. Somehow.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like one great thing Jamie Lee Curtis as Tess does as a mother that I'm like, I can identify. I mean, I identify with like being overwhelmed, stressed out, not feeling it or whatever, but like every decision is just poor. Like she can't drive, didn't write, like the message in her book is bad. She screams at her daughter for no reason, takes the door off her bedroom.
She's a terrible therapist.
Yeah. I don't know. She's bad diet images for her daughter, body image things.
Yeah. And she's not like, she's just not, and it makes me so angry because it's sending this message about pursuing a career that you're passionate about, that, you probably shouldn't, because then it means that, your kids are going to be messed up. And it's just, it's just a slap in the face compared to the original material and the original adaptation. And it's such a shame.
Because they're great people involved. I mean, they're good actresses, and it's a great cast, and it's funny.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The music's good that they do. The
music's even good.
Yeah.
But
it really missed on the script, I think. And I think it's probably a product of its time. It just could have been that. But
I know. I don't buy that, because the original is 50 years old, and no, there's no excuse. I'm sorry. There's no excuse. There's no excuse when Mary Rogers has written a book and a movie with a better, stronger message for women. That much later, no.
Now, girls, you're not children any longer. I feel that I can speak with you as adults. I think you're intelligent enough to grasp exactly what I have to say to you right now.
What is this?
It's your usual rum raisin banana split breakfast.
Figures. What else would the junk food junkie eat for breakfast? That is about the most revolting concoction I've ever put inside my mouth. You see something different, right? Something different? You see that I am diametrically different from the Annabelle you all know, correct? All right. Now listen very carefully. I'm not Annabelle.
Who are you?
I'm a mother. Sensational. What a terrific idea. Today will be our mothers.
So what is your favorite then? I'm going to say the movie 76.
My favorite is the 76 movie.
Same.
Because it takes all of, like I said, all the themes and the really great messages of the original book. But it adds all this amazing physical comedy without spinning off, without spinning out. It's hilarious.
It's
it is
so funny.
So funny, but that message is still there. And that's because she's so brilliant. Mary Rogers is such a brilliant writer that, you have that brilliant screenplay with that brilliant cast and the right director, and it's gold. And, when you start messing with it, you don't get the message in the first place, I guess. And then you try to make a remake of it. It's sort of what it feels like happened. So yeah, totally that. You same, right?
Yes, totally.
Yeah,
totally. And I recommend it if you have Disney Plus. I totally it'll put you in a good mood.
So good.
It's
I was laughing.
I was cracking up.
How many times have I seen this movie? And I hadn't seen it in 25 years at least.
Right.
And it still makes me laugh.
Barbara Harris.
It's great.
Everything she does is so. I mean, Jodie Foster is.
Mm-hmm.
She's a legend for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
She's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really is. Yeah. It's a little scary.
I feel like she was smarter than I am now. Like as a 12-year-old person, I'm sure she's far more intelligent. I know she's like multilingual and whatever. So
yeah, she's super smart.
Yeah.
All right. So we had a fun idea for our next, because again, we're doing Disney in December.
Mm-hmm.
We have a fun idea for our next episode.
Our next episode, we are going to cover Snow White, which is from Grimm's Fairy Tales. If it's the very first Disney movie, but it's one of the first full-length cartoons.
I think so. I think it's one of the, yeah.
It's a classic. It's going to be very interesting to revisit. We're just excited to do it. So, but please, all those places that we mentioned at the top of the show, if you have suggestions,